Let's go take a look at that.
We're drilling.
Beautiful. There's something right there. Nice little signal there. Sounds good.
I think we have another stake.
Steak? Oh, look at that.
We're looking for a big flat stone.
Oak Island was closed by the U.S. after the team found a strange tunnel with gold inside the wood. The drill hit open air deep underground at the same spot old maps said something was buried. That hole lined up in a perfect row with two other spots, like someone had built it long ago. Inside, they found gold dust and metals no one could name. Tune in, because the deeper they dug, the more it looked like something was hidden there on purpose. The void that stopped Oak Island. The Lagina brothers, who've basically turned treasure hunting into a full-time gig, were drilling again, this time into a spot they named DN 11.5. Why? Because it sat right in the middle of all the juicy rumors. Buried treasure, old tunnels, maybe even pirate gold. Geologist Terry and researcher Charles were glued to their screens as the drill chewed through the earth. The target was somewhere between 80 and 120 feet down, where stories and maps have long hinted that something valuable or dangerous might be hiding. But at 90 feet, the screen lit up. Something was there. Then it happened. At the 90-foot mark, the drill didn't just keep digging, it punched through nothing. Like a hollow space, large and unexplained, and when you're dealing with land that's been filled, tunneled, and booby-trapped for centuries, a hollow spot is a red flag in blinking neon. Mike, the drilling guy, knew the moment it happened. The drill suddenly lost resistance, as if the earth just gave up, and whatever was underneath seemed to vanish about 1.5 feet further down. No clank of metal. No splash of water, just a void. Everyone froze, eyes widened, hearts pounded. What they found wasn't gold, not in the way people imagined it. It was weirder than that, a space that shouldn't be there. Charles said what they were all thinking. Rick and Marty needed to see this, fast. Within minutes, the brothers showed up looking like they had been waiting years for this moment. This wasn't just another odd blip underground. What made this void different? It aligned perfectly with two other drill sites, forming a straight east-west line, too precise to be coincidence. That's what got Terry's attention. Terry started connecting dots. It didn't feel like natural erosion. It looked like a blueprint, like someone long ago dug something and did it with a purpose. A tunnel, a chamber, maybe both. And Oak Island has always been good at hiding man-made nightmares under its surface. The strange part, this whole alignment was right around 94 feet deep. That number isn't random. It pops up again and again in old documents, theories, and whispered legends. People have been digging above or below that level for years, never landing quite right. Now, for the first time, maybe they had. Excitement started bubbling. People paced, whispered, pointed at maps. Terry was already scribbling out plans. But just as the energy was hitting a high point, it all got turned on its head. That's when the government showed up. No warning, no explanation. Just orders. Everything stops. Pack up. Clear the site. And don't talk to the press. They called it a precaution. Something about site integrity, historical preservation, and safety concerns. But behind the scenes, people were buzzing. What did they really find? Why the sudden silence? And who tipped off the authorities? Some whispered about a buried ship. Others thought it might be a sealed room filled with something other than treasure. Documents, artifacts, maybe even something toxic. Some of the more wide-eyed types believed it was proof of a centuries-old cover-up. Something older than Oak Island's treasure legends, something no one wanted to be uncovered. Now the island is quiet. Drills packed away. Workers sent home. The only thing left is the memory of that moment when the drill hit air, and the feeling that they had been just inches away from solving the greatest riddle in North American history. But here's the thing. Oak Island has never liked being quiet, and you can bet the team won't stay quiet either. They know what they saw. They felt it. That hole, that space, wasn't an illusion. It was real, and it's still down there. Ever since that shutdown, the theories haven't stopped. Every late-night podcast, every blog post, every treasure hunter forum has been spinning its own version of events. Theories range from the wild to the terrifying. Some say the hollow space was part of a collapsed underground church built centuries ago by secret orders. Others believe the space once held something radioactive, something dangerous enough to trigger government interest the second it was touched. Even after the digging stopped, strange things kept turning up. Gold in the wood, maps in the shadows. And then there's the talk of the room being empty on purpose. A decoy chamber designed to fool anyone who got too close. That wouldn't be too far-fetched, considering how many times the money pit has been flooded, booby-trapped, or just plain impossible. Whatever it was, it changed something. Rick and Marty have been chasing shadows for over a decade. They've hit wood, metal, bone, and parchment. They've found Spanish coins, odd stones, even bits of old tools. But none of that ever stopped the dig. None of that ever brought the government running. This did. It makes you wonder, what's really buried there? And if the dog had gone just 5 feet deeper, would we even be allowed to talk about it now? Meanwhile, Rick and Marty haven't stopped working. They've been quietly analyzing the data, comparing old records, and talking to legal teams. No official statements, but you can see it in their eyes during interviews. Something happened, and they're not letting it go. Terry, too, has been restless. He keeps talking about anomalies, about things that don't line up with normal geology. He's convinced the void is just one piece of something much larger. Maybe a network of spaces hidden just deep enough to stay out of sight, but not out of reach. And then there's the map. A few weeks after the shutdown, an old map surfaced, unverified, worn, covered in notes. But it showed something that made the team sit up straight. A triangular structure buried right beneath the DN alignment. Not a tunnel, not a chamber, a shape. That changed everything, because triangular shapes don't just happen underground, especially not ones surrounded by hollow space and strange readings. And it wasn't the only map. Others came forward. Digital scans, hand-drawn sketches passed through generations, all pointing to the same zone, all hinting that what's buried on Oak Island might not be a treasure, but a device or a monument. That's when people stopped laughing. You can joke about pirates, you can mock the hunt for gold, but when engineers and physicists start showing up with measuring gear and grim expressions, it's hard to keep pretending this is all just for show. Even the skeptics are getting quiet. What happens next is anyone's guess. The land is still off limits. The drill rigs are in storage, but every week someone leaks something new, a radar scan, a pressure reading, a strange sound picked up deep underground. And each new piece of the puzzle makes the original shutdown look more and more suspicious. This isn't just a treasure hunt anymore, it's something else, something deeper, and the countdown has already started. They ran tests on old wood pulled from deep underground. Not the kind of thing that usually makes headlines, except this time it did. Mixed in with the usual minerals was something shiny, gold. Not a nugget or a coin, just a faint trace embedded in the fibers. The gold content was tiny, just 0.04%, but enough to raise alarms. It wasn't a fluke either. Once they realized this odd glimmer was real, the team went full Sherlock. More samples, more scans, more digging, and the readings kept coming back strange. Not just the gold. Other metals were showing up in patterns that didn't add up. Not natural, not local, like something had been put there. Deliberately. Emma, the metal specialist, went quiet. Not the good kind of quiet where you're thinking deeply. The kind where your brain is sprinting and your mouth can't keep up. The numbers were weird, not just rare, unfamiliar. They weren't the sort of elements you'd find if someone dropped a coin centuries ago. This was something that screamed design, and then came the tunnel. The location of the wood matched a structure underground. Not a natural crack, not a root channel. A tunnel was built. Straight lines, smooth curves, old but intentional. Someone made it, long ago, for a reason. People started whispering. Not loud, just those sidelong glances, those silent eyebrows that say, "This isn't normal." Meetings dragged on into the night. Equipment got upgraded. And then another sample came in. Same story. More gold, but also metals that practically yelled across the table. This wasn't just treasure, this was something else. They weren't just digging for gold, they found something made. Something was built under Oak Island. That's when the rumors exploded. Some say it was ancient tech. Others whispered it was a marker, left by people who weren't supposed to be here. There were talks of magnetic anomalies, energy signatures, things not measured in pounds or percentages. Meanwhile, the crew packed up. Emma, Rick, and the others didn't make a scene. No press tour, no leaks, just locked gates and sealed records. But the island didn't stop humming. People noticed helicopters flying low, trucks with no plates, activity that doesn't show up on official maps. And the locals? They've seen this before, just not like this. Some folks think they found a chamber, not just a tunnel, but a sealed vault, big enough to hide something massive, big enough to hold a truth nobody wants out. Maybe it's not about treasure. Maybe it never was. Maybe Oak Island has been protecting something that history forgot on purpose. Or worse, something buried. When the team checked the layers of soil around the site, they noticed shifts, compressions where none should be, air pockets that didn't belong, like something had been put there, and not by accident. The structure wasn't just a tunnel, it was part of a grid, something that spread out beneath the island, connected by old pathways, decayed wood, and strange rock. And guess what those rocks showed when tested? Traces of something radioactive, not dangerous enough to glow, but enough to make people nervous, enough to raise eyebrows in rooms with flags on the wall. There was also water, not regular groundwater, salt water with strange properties, unusual densities, odd chemical makeup, the kind of thing that hints at either contamination or design. Either way, not normal. It was like the whole place had been engineered. Not just a hiding spot for loot, but a machine. A layered structure meant to preserve, protect, or maybe trap. What if the island isn't just a hiding place, but a signal? What if the gold and the weird metals are just breadcrumbs left behind by something older than we want to admit? And here's the kicker. This whole shutdown, it didn't stop at Oak Island. Other sites went quiet too. Places that never made the news. Remote locations where similar materials were tested. The pattern, they all shut down within weeks of each other. Coincidence? Or cleanup? Meanwhile, back at the island, nothing looks different on the surface. Same trees, same coast, but no more digging, no more cameras, just silence. Heavy, loaded silence. The folks who used to live nearby started getting visits, friendly chats, offers to sell, quiet pressure. Then the fences went up. Why all the secrecy? If it was just gold, they could have said that. If it was dangerous, they could have warned people. But they didn't. They just closed it. No answers, just locks. The deeper story here isn't about what they found, it's about what they weren't supposed to find. There are places in this world where curiosity is welcome. Oak Island isn't one of them anymore. And here's the strange part. The crew knew this might happen. They always talked about the risk, not the risk of collapse or running out of money, the risk of finding something real, something that can't be spun into TV episodes, something that demands silence. Real gold found beneath the swamp. The team was poking around the usual suspects, the money pit, lot 5, the swamp, doing their high-tech radar thing, hoping to score another ancient spoon or whatever. But then came the scan. Not a weird blip, maybe not. A solid, undeniable line under the ground. Long, deep, man-made, and the wildest part? It's sitting just off the swamp like it owns the place. But it wasn't supposed to be there. What makes it even juicier is the surrounding dirt. Water samples near the shaft, loaded with trace gold, not theoretical gold, actual particles. Real stuff. Like someone dropped a treasure chest and didn't bother picking it up. And just when they thought that was the big reveal, boom, another anomaly popped up. Less than 20 feet away, deeper, older, maybe even connected. Suddenly, there's talk of chambers, offshoots, maybe a vault, and the radar isn't lying. There's a pattern now, a layout, like someone was building underground real estate for more than just kicks. All this stuff is landing within a few feet of each other. Tools, coins, bullets. It's like someone dropped a backpack full of ancient loot and forgot to come back for it.
Come here, look at this. Is this coconut fiber?
And the kicker? The radar team ran more scans north of the swamp, where an old legend talked about a possible dam. A dam, like someone tried to literally reshape the island's geography to cover their tracks. What did the scans show? Linear anomalies, straight lines, man-made formations buried just a few feet down. At this point, it's not even about if the treasure is real. It's about who had the guts and the time to build all this. Dig teams are scrambling. No more random boreholes. Now it's precision strikes. Every shaft they open leads to more wood, more gold traces, and more mystery. The latest core sample hit wood at only 39 feet. That's practically shallow by Oak Island standards, but the wood was clean, positioned upright, like part of a wall, or better yet, part of another secret shaft. The team knows what this means. This isn't just one tunnel anymore. It's a network, a system, maybe even an entire buried complex. They're not chasing rumors now. They're chasing a blueprint. And every new find tightens the screws on a story that's been loose for way too long. All the old stories, the ghost tales whispered around campfires, suddenly sound a lot more like warnings than wild tales. And now, these bits of broken history, coins, musket balls, fragments of wood cut with ancient tools, are drawing lines on the map nobody ever saw coming. It's no longer about treasure alone. It's about infrastructure, purpose, planning. Somebody had a reason to do all this. Picture it, hand-hewn beams placed with precision, wood treated and buried deep where the sun doesn't touch. This wasn't a quick stash and go. This took months, maybe years, which means whoever did it wasn't just trying to hide something, they were making sure it stayed buried.
Quote-unquote treasure chest or something that can be retrieved from the body of the swamp.
Back near the shaft, more samples keep rolling in. Dirt packed around old timbers carries traces of metal. Not just gold now, lead, iron, even a bit of silver. Like the shaft itself was built around a central vault. Or worse, like it was a trap, built to lure in the curious and bury them with nothing to show. Every time they drill, the island answers with more confusion. And it doesn't help that none of this matches any of the treasure maps or survey records from the 1800s. This isn't about digging deeper anymore. It's about digging smarter. Lot 5 keeps turning up wild finds. A second hammered coin shows up rough around the edges, but the design hints at Portuguese origin. Then a strange hinge piece, maybe part of a chest. Metal detector signals light up like a Christmas tree. And deeper down, ceramic. Glazed pottery old enough to crumble when touched. The deeper they dig, the more the island talks back. Ancient wood and iron discovered. The whole area starts to feel like a time capsule, one buried intentionally with layers stacked like a cake. Top layer, surface junk from recent explorers. Middle, musket arrow weapons and currency. Bottom, the real mystery. On the island's edge, the swamp gives up something else. That dam, it might have held back more than water. Digging along the anomaly line reveals a straight row of rocks that don't belong there, and underneath them, logs, not driftwood, cut straight and bound with rusted iron. Suddenly the theory shifts again. Maybe the swamp wasn't always a swamp. Maybe it was flooded on purpose. And if that's true, then everything beneath it was meant to be hidden. As the days stretch on, the dig crews barely sleep. Each shaft open pulls the timeline back another century. And every artifact sparks more questions. Who built this? Why? And how in the world did they keep it secret this long? The deeper they go, the more the island pushes back. Water floods shafts, old wood collapses, gear breaks, but nobody's walking away. Not now, not after seeing what's really down there. On Lot 10, just north of that weird triangle-shaped swamp everyone keeps whispering about, the scanners lit up. Not literally, but pretty close. They picked up a shape, not just any shape. A rectangle, 12 by 15 feet, sitting snug under layers of earth like it had been waiting to be noticed. Now, when something shows up like that under the ground on Oak Island, people don't just shrug. They grab machines, they grab buckets, they grab metal detectors and people who know how to use them. It didn't take long before they hit something unusual. Wood. But not driftwood. Not the kind that breaks apart in your hand. This stuff had weight, shape. Some of it even had oil soaked into it. Not that thick black goo, but something different, something ancient. Before creosote was a thing, people used oil to protect wood. Sailors, builders, people who wanted their stuff to last. And there it was, sitting a few feet underground in a place where no one remembered building anything. The map came next, an old one drawn in the 14th century. It marked the area as the basin with a note about a dam, right where they were digging, the same spot. as if someone way back when had seen this moment coming. Now that map had always been a little sketchy, passed around with raised eyebrows and shrugged shoulders, but this started to look like proof. Not just marks on paper, real dirt, real wood, real things. Then came the iron, a thick piece, shaped, twisted, hammered. Not something that dropped off a modern boat. This was handcrafted, the kind of thing someone put there on purpose. Not just once, but as part of something bigger, a wall, a structure, a trap. Nobody knew, but it was old. And the older it looked, the deeper everyone leaned in. The oil on the wood wasn't just for show. That detail mattered, because oil-treated wood suggests age, technique, knowledge. People used oil to make sure their buildings survived rain, rot, water, and time. It was a trick sailors knew. Traders, maybe even those mysterious builders everyone keeps hinting at but can't quite name. Now, here's where things start sliding sideways.
It's really an amazing thing that's happening here, a confluence of heritage.
Because while they were busy on Lot 10 digging up oily wood and suspicious iron, the other crew was turning up something on Lot 5. Not a tool, not a piece of gear, a coin, just part of one really. A rough, sliced-off bit of copper with markings nobody recognized at first. But when they brought in the expert, he took one look and nearly dropped it. Roman, as in Empire of the Colosseum Roman. Not Viking, not Spanish, Roman. The analysis backed it up. Copper, yes, but not the kind you'd find in someone's pocket today. This stuff had arsenic, silver, traces that pointed to techniques used before the 15th century, long before this part of the world was supposed to be touched by European hands. Which raises the question, what the hell is a Roman coin doing on Oak Island? Nobody brings coins like that just for fun. Coins travel with people, with plans, with stories, and this one had a story that didn't fit anywhere on the North American timeline, unless of course the Templars brought it, because every time something weird pops up on Oak Island, that theory gets dusted off and pushed to the front. They looked for treasure but found signs of someone who came first. Builders came before the treasure hunters. Back in Portugal, the team had walked old stone roads that looked exactly like the one found buried in Oak Island swamp. Same size stones, same layout, same feeling. Those roads dated back nearly 2,000 years. Roman design, built to last. And that road, or something like it, was now under Canadian mud. Maybe not. Not kind of. Definitely. The pieces were stacking. A buried structure, a coin from ancient Europe, oil-preserved wood, and roads that look like they were copied straight out of a Roman textbook. Even if it all sounds crazy, the dirt doesn't lie. The tech doesn't lie. Scanners, drills, detectors, they don't care about conspiracy theories. They just read what's there. The dig on Lot 10 kept going, deeper, past layers of peat and clay, through compacted dirt that hadn't moved in centuries. And the deeper they went, the weirder things got. Logs appeared, shaped planks, structured boards, not tossed there by chance, not washed up from some forgotten wreck. They were buried with purpose, set down, covered up. There were no signs that any search team in the past had done this. No notes, no history, nothing. Which meant one thing, it wasn't them. It was someone before. Someone builds things quietly, carefully. Someone who didn't leave a signature. The shape on the scan started to look more and more like a wall. Not a pile of junk, a real wall. And if that was true, then the map wasn't a fake. The dam it described wasn't a story. It was buried under their feet. As they pulled up more timber, the layers told the story. Dark bands of soil, shifts in texture, spots where the earth changed. Builders know this stuff. You can read the ground like pages in a book. And what they read screamed structure. Something heavy once stood there. Something important. Meanwhile, down in the Money Pit area, the drill team was busy in borehole D 17.5. Deep drilling, not the quick kind. Over 100 feet down, they pulled up more wood. Big chunks, some with clear tool marks. Axes, probably. You could see where the blade bit into the grain. Not new work, not even recently. This was rough cut, old style, likely pre-1795. before the original money pit was even discovered. That matters because if these beams were from a time before anyone came looking for treasure, then they were part of the original story, not someone else's failed attempt. Original. The stuff legends get built on. The mystery deepened. If this was a shaft, who dug it? Why is there no record? If this wasn't documented by the countless teams who tore the island apart in the last 200 years, then it slipped through history. Or it was hidden on purpose. With every find, the tension rose. Every hit of the detector, every thud of the drill. They weren't just moving dirt, they were peeling back time, bit by bit. The archaeologists weighed in, not just the treasure hunters anymore. Specialists came to look at the coin, experts with microscopes and fancy tools. They didn't laugh, they nodded, ran tests, confirmed it, Roman, or close enough that it didn't matter. The kind of coin used in trade, cut for payments, passed hand to hand across continents. The interpretive center buzzed. Researchers, metals experts, even a numismatist poked and prodded the find. They weighed it, scanned it, and turned it over under lights. The mix of metals inside? A chemical fingerprint pointing back to a time and place nobody associated with Canada. Not even close. If the coin was real and all signs pointed to yes, then history needed an update, not a footnote. A rewrite, because either someone brought it here way before they were supposed to, or someone had been rewriting the past already and left this little clue behind. What if the real secret wasn't treasure at all, but a cover-up that rewrote history itself? Share your thoughts in the comments, like and subscribe for more mysterious discoveries.